At our divorce hearing, my wife walked in beaming, one hand resting on her stomach like she'd already secured the victory. She claimed the baby was mine and accused me of trying to abandon my new family. The judge opened her mouth to speak, but I stood and calmly said, "Your Honor, I've been sterile since 2018. Her grin collapsed instantly. Her lawyer whispered something, then requested a recess. Now she calls me dozens of times a day. Before I get too deep into this, I just want to say thanks for listening. It really means more than I can explain. But take a quick look, only a small percentage of readers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy hearing these stories, that one little click makes a huge difference. Details have been altered for privacy, but the essence remains true. There's something deeply unsettling about sitting in a courtroom, watching the person you once loved methodically try to dismantle your life, smiling the whole time. Even worse when they wield an unborn child as a weapon. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind. My soon-to-be ex-wife, Melissa, and I had been married for 7 years. We met in 2012, married the following spring, and at first life was amazing. She thrived in corporate marketing, I was a software developer with a fast-rising career. We traveled often, bought and renovated a charming old house, shared ambitions and goals. Kids weren't part of the picture, which became a sticking point around our 3rd anniversary. I had been diagnosed with a hereditary neurological condition that has a 50% chance of being passed to children. It's a cruel illness. Nerve damage begins subtly in mid-adulthood, but over time it can take away mobility entirely. I'd watched my father lose the ability to walk before he turned 50. Now, at 36, I already had occasional numbness in my hands and feet, and my balance wasn't perfect. Knowing the risk, I didn't want to pass that burden on. I still remember leaving the neurologist's office in 2016, medical report in hand, feeling like my future had been turned upside down. That evening, I told Melissa everything, the prognosis, the risks, and my fears about biological children. We still have choices, I said, taking her hands in ours across the table. Adoption, fostering, or just us, focusing on the life we've been building. She teared up, promised my health came first, and for almost a year we were in sync. We even looked at adoption agencies and spent more time with family. But in early 2018, something shifted. She started hinting that my concerns were overblown, science was advancing, maybe our child wouldn't inherit it. I'd find fertility pamphlets left on the counter. If I brought up my stance, she accused me of stealing her chance at motherhood. "You're denying me something I was meant to experience," she'd say, her voice breaking during arguments. When I pointed out adoption, she snapped, "It's not the same. I want to carry my own baby." By summer, her obsession was obvious. She was watching birthing videos, shopping for baby clothes. Then, one July afternoon, I stumbled across something that changed everything. While looking for a receipt on our shared laptop, I found searches about sabotaging condoms, cycle tracking calendars marked with reminders to skip pills, and a forum thread where she'd asked strangers for tips on getting pregnant when your husband says no. One reply suggested getting him drunk so he wouldn't notice, and Melissa had answered, "That could work. Whiskey always makes him forget details." I felt sick. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was premeditated violation. When she got home, I confronted her. She tried to brush it off as venting, but when pressed, she admitted she was desperate. "I'm turning 35 next year. My time is running out." The next morning, I scheduled a vasectomy consultation. I didn't tell her, not to punish her, but to protect myself. The procedure happened that September while she was away with her sister. I'd planned to tell her afterward, maybe in counseling, but before I got the chance, she sat me down and said she wanted a separation. No discussion, no therapy. Just, done. 2 months later, she came back wanting to reconcile, claiming she could accept a child-free marriage. Against my better judgment, I agreed, and we went to counseling. For nearly a year, things felt better. But then one September afternoon, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing while she showered, and the urge to look, fueled by old distrust, got the better of me. I glanced at the screen and froze. The preview text from someone named Evan R. read, "Miss you too, love. Can't wait until." My stomach sank. Evan Roberts was her boss. Against my better judgment, I opened the messages. The truth hit like a sledgehammer. Not only were they having an affair, but it had been going on for more than 2 years. Starting in early 2016, before my medical diagnosis, before the endless arguments about children. Scrolling through, I pieced together the timeline. Their relationship had survived every fight we'd had, every tearful discussion about fertility, even her sudden desire for divorce. The reconciliation we'd had coincided perfectly with Evan being transferred to his company's London branch for 9 months. It was clear now, she'd only come back to me because her real partner was on another continent. When Melissa walked out of the bathroom, I was sitting on the edge of the bed, her phone in my hand. "How long have you been with Evan?" I asked quietly. The color drained from her face. "Adam, I can explain." 2 years, Melissa. 2 years, I said, my voice shaking. "You were sleeping with him while making me feel like a selfish monster for not wanting children. You threatened to leave me over that, then came back when he left the country. Was anything real?" She didn't deny it. Instead, she tried to justify it. Evan wanted kids. Evan would give her a family. Evan understood her in ways I never could. The next morning, I filed for divorce. October 2019. No second chances this time. From the start, the process was ugly. She wanted the house I'd mostly paid for, my inheritance from my grandmother had covered the down payment. She wanted half my retirement savings, and heavy alimony despite earning a solid salary herself. Her lawyer painted me as cold and unfeeling, using my refusal to have biological children as proof of my selfishness. By February 2020, 4 months into the legal battle, we had a hearing scheduled to decide temporary division of assets. I arrived early with my attorney, Michael Tran, going over our paperwork in the hallway. "We're in a good position," Michael said confidently. "Your financials are airtight. And the judge on this case is no pushover." That's when I saw her walking toward us, and my jaw nearly hit the floor. Melissa was visibly pregnant. Not just a little. At least 6 months along, wearing a dress that clung to her belly like a spotlight. She met my gaze, hands cradling her stomach, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. Michael gripped my arm. "You knew about this?" "No," I whispered, staring. "That's impossible. We haven't been together since." "Don't react," he hissed. "That's what she's counting on." We entered the courtroom, my mind racing. The dates didn't match. Unless she'd somehow hidden it during our reconciliation, no, even that didn't make sense. Judge Elena Monroe entered, and we all rose. After introductions, Melissa's lawyer, a sharp-suited man named Fields, wasted no time. "Your Honor, before we proceed, we'd like to note a significant development," Fields said, gesturing toward Melissa. "As you can see, my client is expecting. This directly impacts financial considerations in this matter." Judge Monroe's brows lifted. "I don't have any amended petition in my file, Counselor." "We'll be filing the amendment this week," Fields said smoothly. "Given my client's advanced pregnancy, we felt it necessary to bring it to your attention today. Mr. Reed has not only attempted to avoid supporting his wife, but is now trying to abandon his unborn child." I felt like the air had been knocked from my lungs. Michael scribbled on his legal pad, "Demand paternity test immediately." The judge turned to me. "Mr. Reed, were you aware of this pregnancy?" Before I could speak, Fields jumped in. "He was aware, Your Honor. She told him during their last reconciliation, which, we believe, led to his hasty filing for divorce." A complete lie. Michael stood to object, but Fields plowed on. "This pregnancy has also caused health complications, requiring her to cut back her work hours. She's been diagnosed with gestational hypertension. She needs adequate support from a husband who has shown callous disregard for his family. Melissa dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "I just want what's best for our baby," she said softly, projecting wounded innocence. Judge Monroe sighed, giving me a cool, measured look. "Mr. Reed, in light of these..." I stood. Michael tugged my sleeve, but I stepped forward. "Your Honor, with respect, I had a vasectomy in August 2018. The room went silent. Melissa's smile froze and slowly cracked. Fields turned toward her, confusion written all over his face. "I have documentation," I continued, pulling a folder from my briefcase. "Medical records, plus 2 follow-up lab reports confirming 0 viable sperm after the procedure. I am not the father of that child." Fields sputtered, "Your Honor, my client was never informed of this procedure. This is clearly an attempt to avoid responsibility." Judge Monroe raised her hand for silence. "Let me review those records," Judge Monroe said. I handed the folder to the bailiff, who carried it to the bench. She leafed through each page slowly, her expression neutral. "The procedure was completed by Dr. Patel at Westbrook Medical Center on August 10, 2018, I explained. "Here are the receipts and documentation for my hereditary neurological disorder, the same one that caused my father's early decline." Melissa's face had gone pale, her hands trembling slightly. Fields leaned toward her to whisper, but she pulled away sharply. "These appear to be legitimate," Judge Monroe said at last. "Mrs. Reed, were you aware of this?" Melissa stood, still holding one hand across her stomach. "No, he never told me. He couldn't have. We were still intimate after that." "The surgery only affects fertility, Your Honor," I clarified evenly. "We were together during our reconciliation period, which began 3 months after the procedure." Fields quickly asked for a 15-minute recess, which was granted. Across the room, they whispered urgently, their faces tight with tension. Michael shot me a half-smile. "A little warning would have been nice," he muttered. "If your paperwork wasn't airtight, this could have gone sideways fast." "I didn't know she'd go this far," I said quietly. "I never imagined she'd try to pass off another man's child as mine in court." "Her boss?" he asked. I didn't answer, I didn't have to. When we reconvened, Fields had shifted his approach. He now claimed that my not disclosing the vasectomy was marital misconduct, and had caused his client severe emotional harm. "Your Honor," he began, "while my client may have been mistaken about paternity, the fact remains that Mr. Reed underwent a life-changing procedure without her knowledge." Judge Monroe wasn't buying it. "Counselor, your client just swore under oath this child was her husband's, and we've now confirmed that's impossible. I suggest you consider the legal consequences of perjury before proceeding." She turned to both parties. "We'll postpone today's hearing. Mr. Fields, you have 48 hours to submit a revised petition that reflects the actual circumstances. Mr. Tran, you may respond within 72 hours. Then she looked directly at Melissa. "Mrs. Reed, I strongly advise complete honesty in all future filings. Attempting to mislead the court on paternity can result in sanctions." As I packed up my things, Melissa glared at me openly, the mask of sorrow gone, replaced by raw anger. In the hallway, she tried to approach me, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "Adam, please, let me explain," her lawyer stepped in, steering her toward the exit. That was 3 days ago. Since then, my phone hasn't stopped ringing, 43 calls from her, countless texts alternating between tearful apologies and bitter accusations. She's claimed the baby might still be mine somehow and begged me to work things out. Meanwhile, Evan, the affair partner and almost certainly the real father, has gone silent. According to a mutual contact at their office, he abruptly took personal leave and cleared his calendar for the next month. The following week, her lawyer officially withdrew from the case. He hadn't known about the pregnancy lie and refused to continue after being blindsided in court. She hired new counsel, a more combative attorney, though far less respected. Michael filed for an expedited divorce based on attempted fraud, which the judge approved. Instead of dragging on for a year, the final hearing was set for 6 weeks later. 2 days before that hearing, Melissa's sister, Erin, knocked on my door. We'd always been cordial, and she'd remained neutral through the split. "I owe you an apology," she said, sitting stiffly on my couch. "Melissa told me you abandoned her after she told you about the baby." I believed her. "What changed?" I asked, offering coffee. She declined. "She finally admitted the truth yesterday, the affair with Evan, trying to trap you into fatherhood, and getting pregnant by him while planning to claim it was yours so she'd get more in the settlement." Erin shook her head. "She figured if the court thought the baby was yours, she'd get far better terms and steady support." "And Evan?" I asked. "He wants nothing to do with it. He never wanted kids, one of the reasons she fought with both of you. When your lawyer sent his attorney the transcripts, well, he's out." "I'm sorry she dragged you into this," I said. "I'm the one who's sorry," she replied. "I should have seen who she was sooner." The final hearing was mercifully short. With her deceit fully documented, the judge dismissed all alimony claims and awarded her only half of the marital assets acquired during our years together. I kept the house, bought out her share of the equity, retained my retirement accounts, and kept the heirlooms from my grandmother she'd tried to claim. Outside the courthouse, Melissa, now heavily pregnant, made one last attempt. "Adam, please," she said, grabbing my arm. "I made mistakes, but this baby needs a father." I gently removed her hand. "I'm sure Evan will step up once the paternity test is official." "He won't," she whispered. "He's transferred to Singapore." "Then I'm sorry," I said. "But that's not my responsibility. I wish you and your child well." Our chapter is closed. 6 months later, I heard she'd had a healthy baby boy and moved back in with her parents. Evan reportedly sends money but has no plans to return. I've focused on my health. My specialist is hopeful that new treatments might slow the progression of my condition. I've renovated the house, removing any trace of our old life and making it accessible for the future. Through a support group for others with my illness, I've met people who made the same choice I did, to break the chain and not pass it on. For the first time, I feel peace about that decision. Sometimes I wonder how things might have been different if we'd been honest from the start. But what ifs don't matter now. The lesson I carry is simple: live honestly, stand firm in your values, and never compromise them for someone else's agenda. My life isn't perfect, my prognosis is still uncertain. But it's real, and it's mine. And sometimes, that's the best ending you can have.